What up? What up? What up? It's Ibn Webb, Quran the Sum. Ib, Hava's gonna be here. Welcome to another go round. It's official thanks here. Those who've been watching, I know I just got cute with the backdrop, new logo, everything here. I like to call this my logo a happy Ib logo. So, but it's cool though. It's cool though. A little transition. It's all good though. But we do another go round. It's official. Thanks as far as the Essex County All Day edition here. Again, the blessings just keep coming my way here. I got a legendary coach, men, women, what have you there from a legendary family, Coach Wright. She's just willing to just take some time out and talk to your boy here. Just looking forward to just get to know about her, learn a bit more about her. A lot of work, obviously, on the court, but off the court, accolades are just endless, to be honest with you. And like I said, I'm just really just taken back here, so one, I just wanted to thank her, and I'll probably thank her a bunch of times when she get on. But I'm just looking forward to just talking with her. So just hold tight.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. One, I want to say you got this down to a science, is logging on and hitting the video, everything here.
Oh, no, it's rough. It's rough. I'm trying to figure it out.
Nah, you knocked it out. Usually I have a little chuckle to myself listening and watching folks try to get on. So you knocked it out the park here. How are you?
I'm good. I can't complain.
Good. Glad to hear that.
I can't complain.
Thank you. Thank you for, again, just giving me some of your time. I mean, I know you're ripping and running, so just the little window you're giving me, I'm very, very grateful for.
Oh, please. It's all right.
Good. So as we talked the other day, like I said, just the reason, the madness behind this as far as just, like I said, initially, just kind of doing some stuff with the family or what have you. But I didn't realize, just me being a huge sports fan, and particularly where I'm from, Essex County, and just those in sports and everything else. But obviously, I've been leaning on sports a little bit, at least initially here. Just everyone that's just done something in that realm here, just to not only better their lives, but better other people's lives as well around them, whether as in yourself here, the student athletes, and just the community in itself here. Like I said, I'm just in awe of everybody, like I said, that have lent a hand and trying to help and make other people's lives better. And what better person or example than yourself here. So.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
So what I normally just like to do is just, kind of question, answer kind of thing, conversation wise, and not try to get too, textbook about it. But again, that's it. So just kind of to lead off here, where are you from?
I grew up in Montclair, but I'm originally from North Carolina.
Okay. So you grew up in Montclair all straight through high school, or?
High school, Montclair High, yes. Really?
I didn't know. Wow. Okay. So you was a lady Mountie, huh?
Yes.
Okay. And I spent a lot of my life, younger life in Montclair as well too. I actually went to school in Montclair to about 5th grade. Then I went to Montclair Immaculate as well too. So I spent my shared time in Montclair here. So with sports education, I mean, are you siblings? Any siblings or?
Yeah.
As far as brothers and sisters, did you have any?
Yeah, 3.
Okay. So out of all you guys here, with sports here, how did you get interest and love for sports, and particularly if it was basketball first, or it might have been something else? Well, where'd that come from?
Well, you have to understand that came along at a time where girls weren't really involved in athletics in the 50s and the 60s. Title IX came about in 72. But as a kid, my brother, who played basketball for Johnson C. Smith University, was responsible for me. And so when he would go out to play, of course, I had to come along with him. So I ended up being that extra person. I was never chosen. It's like, oh, we got to take her. And so I would get on the team and stuff. And we played with a peach basket, that they would let's hammer up and stuff, And after a while, it became a thing where they began to choose me rather than letting me be the last one. sitting out there. I think that's one of the things I changed when I became a teacher. I didn't let kids choose teams.
Okay.
Everybody got a number to make it so you feel a little bit better about yourself. But yeah, that's where I got my interest in basketball began with my brother. I didn't really want to do it. I just had to do it. And so then it became a love.
Mm-hmm. And then with that love, did you just start playing with your brother and particular courts or what have you there? And then did not back then, I mean, I know girl leagues probably were limited, I think, at best if there was any, but as far as just starting to play, what happened as you transitioned into high school playing?
Well, what happened was we had the Black Y in Montclair. I don't know if it was on Washington Street.
Washington Street, yeah.
But the Black Y was where I would go and play with some of the older kids, older women who had me. I guess I was their runner,
Mm-hmm.
We had, you have to understand that basketball, when it was in its infancy for women, there was a 6-person game. And so you had 2 people who were rovers. You couldn't go past half court. It was it was a bit, but at any rate, I played with people like Rachel Mincy, Audrey Fletcher, Rita Rose. All those girls had me playing basketball with them. And I was much younger. They were older, of course, than I. But that began my trek. And I played softball. I played a lot of different sports. And then in high school, of course, it wasn't available to girls. You could run a little track. You could do a little something. They, for the most part, girls had it was called the Girls Athletic Council, the GAA. And hold on 1 second.
No
let
problem.
my daughter know on a call. But you had the Girls Athletic Council. So you would play different teams, but then you would sit and have milk and cookies after the game and then go home.
Okay.
So it's that kind of thing. But as I went on and began to really get a real interest in how the game worked, like to strategize, to learn different things, it changed. And as I went off to college, it was as I said, basketball was in its infancy, and I became a player coach at Bennett College as a freshman. As a freshman, yeah. And I decided I like coaching more than I enjoy playing.
But did you
coaching as a college
and coach the whole time there? You used to player coach?
I was a player coach my freshman year.
Okay.
And my sophomore, junior, senior year, I was a coach.
Okay. Interesting.
As a student, I was afforded that opportunity by Coach Claus, who was the women's basketball coach at Bennett College. And of course, I was there, and I think I added a lot of good things, I think, and you have to understand that basketball, basically during that time, it was a male-dominated sport. Right. You had men coaches, and there weren't too many female coaches. So I began coaching in college, which was unusual for a student.
Totally unprecedented. Totally. And then you wind up.
Now that I think about it, yeah, I guess so.
Absolutely. So you graduate college, and then you obviously got the coaching bug. Where do you go from there?
I went to White Plains.
Okay.
I was recruited and went to White Plains and took over the girls' basketball program there. Won a state championship, and then I came back across the bridge. Okay.
Now, I know you wanted to Columbia. That was early 80s, 82, 83, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Now you get there, like, do you walk into a whole project having to just put this whole thing together, or was it already kind of a system in place, or what happened when you got there?
Oh, well, I was there was a gentleman who was coaching at Columbia High School at the time, Tommy Ruggiero.
Okay.
And I had followed him when we were in White Plains. We were in championships. And we were always trying to get together to see if we could scrimmage or do something during playoff times. And I was living in Montclair and commuting. I was commuting to White Plains over the Tappan Zee Bridge every day. And so it never happened. But then I ended up getting pregnant and everything. So I said, well, I can't make this trip across this bridge. So I'm coming home. And so Tommy was like, listen, why don't you come on over, Columbia, coach with me? I was like, no. So I ended up doing it. I said it was a perfect thing because with a young baby, and everything, I didn't need the responsibilities of being a head coach. So it's a perfect thing, to help with the feeder program and, things of that nature. And Tommy, he said, listen, I'm only going to be here a couple more years and I'm out. And he was there a couple more years. He left and I became the head coach.
How was that transition? Just taking over the helms from him after he's kind of been partner, mentor, coach, everything in one. So you're taking on, how was that?
Well, it was different. Everybody has their own, kind of philosophy, with coaching. But the bottom line is you want to win and you want to, have some good kids. You want kids to grow up to be good people. And, taking over the program, it was good. And I knew I had to do some things to sort of build it. And so that's, I started putting things in place.
Okay. Now, being Columbia, obviously you have South Orange, Maplewood there. Just to transition again, I know it's more of a affluent town. So you being a black female and just kind of just coach. I mean, was there any issues around you smiling? So how was this, all of that as far as just just from the community itself here? I mean, any obstacles or what have you? I don't want to assume. That's why I'm asking.
Well, I was the first Black coach that they hired. And so it was difficult. As a matter of fact, I coached cheerleading there as well. And I coached basketball. And people weren't too happy to have a Black coach. And I think that the young people saw that they were afforded an opportunity to not only cheer, but to play basketball, that there would be, some good things going on. And I ended up suing the district for discrimination back in 1990. And I won to court in Newark. And they found the district guilty of 11 counts of discrimination 7 counts of discrimination and 11 culpable charges. And so that began to change and you began to get more kids coming out and more involved and have some type of equity, because in certain sports, you can do this and you can do that. And like you said, a community such as South Orange and Maplewood, and I still live here, they still have issues. So, it's America. What can I say?
I know, and touch on that actually in a little bit as well too. But even it's interesting you mentioned as far as the whole suit against them in 90, what have you, but you already been there 7, 8+ years, and for it to get to that point here, it had to just be like, it had to be a lot just for it to get to that point, to get some litigation and try to get some things done here. Because you already been there, the wins was coming in, the titles, the accolades and everything. And for you to still, years later, still have to, pursue that. So, and to your point, unfortunately, it's America. But again, I think it's that's one of those things in regards, though, and again, just taking a stance. And I think even for those behind you and the younger people to see that, like, hey, despite me winning and, doing things for this high school here, like, I still have my own issues and things I got to defend and, stand up for what's right.
Well, I was fired. I was fired as a coach. They fired me because I refused to remove Black girls from my team.
Yeah.
So I had to fight for my job back, and that was with cheerleading. I wasn't fired as a basketball coach. I was fired as a cheerleading coach. And people didn't think that was a big deal, but it was a huge deal. And I also coached cheerleading in White Plains. And so, you do what you have to do. Too many people died in order for us to be in the position that we're in. And if you don't learn, and you have to be an example for your students, for your children, and teach them how to fight. You just don't lay down, And you can't accept a no when you need a yes.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And I know, and you see it to this day here. And I think, and that's just crazy, me just even hearing this about, again, just having some type of idea about, South Orange, maybe we're back when, but also, like I mentioned to you, I talked to Mark Brown. I know Mark mentioned even when he moved to Columbia, did things to his house and everything as well when they moved over there. So this is stuff, again, not surprised, but like I said, just hearing about it now, just like, wow.
Yeah, and some things really haven't changed. We just sort of, we go through things, and you just keep fighting, and you stand up instead of standing by, and that separates the men from the women. You have men who are males, you have men, and then you have males. You have women, you have so you just have to stand up and have a backbone instead of a wishbone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And and this is not about me, and I'm not trying to make it all about me, but I can relate, as far as in regards to, I'm an official, I officiate, high school sports or whatever. So I had a situation where, certain games were being given to white refs, as far as the premier games or what have you there. And, blacks were getting the crumbs. I mean, again, you officiate every game the best to your best, no matter what kind of game you give it. But you could just tell how the games would be given out. So, I wound up taking a stance in regards to that, as far as on the officiating board. It, again, led to some rumblings and everything else. But to your point, I had to go file a discrimination suit against them as well. So I could kind of relate. And then, some things got changed or what have you. There's still issues. But again, let it be known, I'm not sitting down. I wasn't raised that way, not at all. So again, so I can relate to the litigation and all that stuff as well too. So, that's, it's the way it is.
It's straight, and it's important too. I know that I used to be an official observer for the state.
Okay.
Because I used to complain so much about people looking like me who weren't represented and trying to. And I remember the officials. I would get Lee Hendricks and her crew, and there's so many people coming through. But I would go and sit and watch games and watch officials and see who's out of position or how they're making those calls. And of course I've been involved in a lot of things that you play 7 people.
Yeah, I've heard that a whole lot, even from on my family or families of black families as well, that I can hear in the stands playing basketball. You're playing 7 against 5, or if it's 3 refs, you're playing 8 against 5. So I've heard that. I've heard that many times. I heard that many times. Yeah. Now, just real quick to kind of swing back to just the actual coaching game experience here. Now, when do you get, I like to just say rocking and rolling here, hey, I got something here. I think this coaching thing, I kind of got a handle on this, and the wins and the girls, the teams to start gelling here. Did it take a while for you to kind of just sense that and kind of get going with the girls here, or you just knew right from the beginning, I got this?
Well, I found that the girls are definitely different from boys coaching them. Mm-hmm. I've coached boys too. And girls have a thirst, for knowledge and to learn, and they listen, and they don't think they know everything, and I'm just being honest.
Absolutely.
With and boys always, you're better than this when you this, or whatever. So sometimes you believe your press and you're not working hard. But I find that with girls, the work ethic was there. Everything was basically new for them. They were hungry. And I think, fundamentals was the thing for me. If you can handle, I used to love to go to soccer games and watch the footwork of soccer players, defensively. But I was, and my kids used to hate game film. But I would tell them, they watch games. They say, oh, look, did you see this? Did you see that? And, oh, that move. And I would tell them, don't watch the game for enjoyment. Watch the game critically and see the kinds of things that's going on and how you can stop someone or what move you can take, or in doing that, you become a student of the game.
Yes.
And you can pick up some things, and you can, because all coaches do it. We just steal. We steal everything. I see a good play, I'm writing that out. I'll be sitting on the bench writing something up. Some coach ran a nice out of bounds play on me.
That's right. That's right.
I said, I gotta have that. And I had no problem picking up the phone and calling the coach, whether Shirley Lawrence or whoever it may be. Yo, when you played such and such and such and such, did you notice it? So it's that dialogue, the conversations. It's a, I used to have this thing, I call it Coach's Corner, where you just sit and, you talk. Everything doesn't have to be adversarial, so we can all learn from one another. And of course, I slept with a clinic every night. So
I didn't even get to your ex.
Anything I wanted to know, I had somebody sitting next to me to play it at the highest level. Mm-hmm. So, that was a blessing too. Nobody's gotten to where they are alone. I had lots of help.
Yeah.
I had great coaches, assistant coaches, Jerry Paradiso, and, so many, Anthony's the senior people who have come through, who have been absolutely phenomenal. And when you're building a program, and that goes academically as well as athletically. I didn't have any girls during that time that didn't score at least 1,000 on their SATs. We had a team GPA of about 3.7, 3.8. We didn't play because if you didn't have that, you couldn't be on my team. You couldn't come. And we didn't do it and say you have to get these grades without having something in place for you. So there was always the tutoring. There was always the extra help that you needed. So there were no excuses. Success is the absence of excuses. So if I'm laying everything out for you and I have a coach over here that's tutoring in this, and the kids would fight to be lead tutors. So academics were far more important than the athletics. Because I had kids that go on academic scholarships as well.
No, definitely. There's probably even more pride in that than the actual basketball scholarship, as far as the academic piece. And that's, and again, just being at Columbia, obviously I know the resources are there, to help out. To your point, he mentioned tutors or what have you there. Now I know as far as, do you remember your first varsity win and who it was against?
Yes, it was New Rochelle.
New Rochelle,
Wright Plains. We beat the Huguenots. Yes, I do.
Okay. How about at Columbia? Remember, that's who y'all played? Columbia played New Rochelle? That's when you was in White Plains.
New Rochelle was in Westchester County at White Plains High School when I was at White Plains. But here, now I really don't remember who my first who the first victory was here. I just remember very long bus rides.
Yeah, because a lot of teams were still forming girls teams, I'm sure, even in the early 80s there, I'm sure.
Yeah, Iron Hills Conference. We were up in Morris County. We were like, they did away with the Big Ten, which was fabulous. I mean, that was one of the biggest mistakes I think we made athletically, in this area, is doing away with the Big Ten.
Now, when you got there, the Big Ten, they just it was Iron Hills as soon as you started, or the Big Ten?
It was Iron Hills, yeah. It had already, it had gone down. So it's the Iron Hills Conference. Yeah, it's a strong conference, no doubt.
Now, all these years coaching or what have you there, and I know ultimately 2012 or what have you, decided to walk away. You just felt that it was a good time to go? It
was time.
Okay. When you know, right?
When sort of like, sometimes, you watch professional athletes and sometimes it's hard for people to give it up. They'll go overseas and play, they'll go here and play, but you always got to have that plan B. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I don't consider myself retired. I consider myself redirected. And so, when when to say when. As a matter of fact, I retired on 12/21. Yeah, and that was the day that the world was supposed to officially end. If you recall, everybody was talking about it.
Yeah, so that's one day.
That was the day, and so yeah, it was time.
Now, to parallel even your coaching career, like I said, all the other stuff, what were you doing in between time? I mean, you're involved in a lot of projects. I know just talking to you, I know even reading information about you. You're everywhere. I don't even know how you stay awake. I don't even know how you're awake right now. So like even coaching, like what were you more involved in as far as using some of that energy to do?
A little bit of everything. As you can see, I was involved in I was a student government advisor at my school for 25 years. I founded the Martin Luther King Club at my school, where we did a lot of outreach nationally and internationally, I was involved in a lot of foundation work,
Okay.
anything that involved young people and the ability to help them to do better. I was involved in. I still am. I haven't stopped that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, like I said, I just reading everything. I'm like, when do you sit? Like I said, you're sitting now, but you're still doing something. You're not sitting yet. Now I know you mentioned your late great husband here. How'd you guys meet?
Well, first date was one-on-one basketball, believe it or not.
Oh, this is like a Omar Sinai thing, huh? There's a love and basketball kind of thing, huh?
Yeah, they could have. Look, I'm the original basketball wife.
That's right.
But our first date was one-on-one basketball. He sort of saw some track equipment, in my car, and was wondering who was this, person. Anyway, it's a long story, but so we met, and the rest is history.
Okay. Who won that game?
I did.
Okay. Nah,
in my head.
Yeah. And then now how
So we've never really said who won the game, but I was pretty good, I can say. I'm still good. I still, drop step and post you up.
Yeah,
None of my players have ever beaten me because I say, oh, my leg. I just pulled something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When I see they're getting ready to beat me, I stop.
Absolutely. And in regards to, late great husband, you won his heart. So that was the best probably thing ever. Never mind the game. You won his heart. Yes. Now, even how competitive was things in the house here? Like, you guys just being competitors, like this, how was it? I mean, outside of basketball, sure.
I don't care what it was. I want to win. And he wanted to win, whether it's playing jacks, tiddlywinks, Atari, Space Invaders, whatever, I want to win, so it was really, really good. But the thing I think that really helped a lot with the basketball program is he was the coach of the little kids, in middle school. He ran that feeder. So he sent kids to me ready.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there are so many people that were involved. And so, as I said, the fundamentals were very important. Your player personnel, like, you just can't do the same thing every year because you don't have the same people, right?
Right.
And so some people do. I don't know how they do it. Some people run that 2-1-2 forever, or that 3-1-3-1 because that's their signature thing. But for me, defenses and offense was always strategies. You strategize and you try and do the things that would be best complemented, for your students. I think my kids were recruited a lot because they all were role players.
Okay.
Everybody had a role to play.
Absolutely. Be a star in your role. Be a star in your role. Absolutely.
I remember one of my players that I told her, I said, Mo, you're going to get recruited. I'm telling you, you're going to get recruited. She's not, Coach. She says, I only average like 2 points a game. And, I said, well, Sugar, you can find shooters a dime a dozen, but you can't find people to do the things that you're doing that are unnoticed, that you don't read about in the newspaper. And so she ended up playing for Fordham. And making all kinds, everything, but she never really thought that she would. And there were many stories, like Mo, and she ended up doing her own foundation, and she's doing a great job. Was honored by ESPN by some of the things that she's done, But you just do the best that you can do, and make sure that the kids are educated and they can move on. Because at the end of the day, that's something that you can't take. I mean, you can blow your knee out, and a lot of things can happen. But it's always nice to have a piece of the rock. That's why I always felt the signing early was important.
Mm-hmm.
You had some kids want to wait and see what's going to come. But a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, right?
Yeah.
So never know what everybody forget about you. It's going to. I like for kids to commit. In that summer of their junior year, or at least go and do your visits and things like that. Your official visits in the fall, and make a decision before the season. Will begin.
Now, how much of a role did you play in your players' part as far as even choosing schools or what have you? I mean, I know everything's different for each individual. Did you play a huge role in the majority of them? or you kind of just let them do their thing? And...
No, you know, the one thing you don't want is for a child to go someplace because you told them to.
Mm-hmm.
I told them to go to a school where they would be happy being a student,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that had the things that you were interested in.
Okay.
And in some instances, maybe you only got one look.
Mm-hmm.
They say your parents some money, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, and I would encourage my parents to stay out of that process and let the kid make that decision on their own. And of course, now, you know, things have changed, you know, with transfers and things like that out of college. They no longer have to wait. They have the portal now.
Right.
So, you know, and that brings on its own challenges as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, things now that we mentioned the portal and transfers, and even at the high school level, you have players going to 3-4 high schools, you know, in a 4-year stint. I mean, like, I see you waving a hand. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. It's like, where's the consistency? And you know, you have a lot of kids that are doing a lot of things, people in your ear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then it all becomes all about basketball, and that's it. And basketball and books go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember, you know, the kids that would come out of high school, you know, with hardship and stuff. You know, Spencer Hayward, as a matter of fact, was the first person. You know, people don't give him credit, but he was the first person to come out hardship and made that available for everybody. But this running around, I'm gonna go here and play for 2 seasons. I'm gonna play here a season because I'm not satisfied and I'm not getting the time. You know, it becomes a I me kind of thing as versus to we and us.
Yeah,
and we get a lot of spoiled players like that.
No, you do.
You have to learn to say no. You're not as good as you think you are. And I used to tell my players, look, you haven't seen anybody play in California. You think your stuff is tight here?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen anybody play in Cali? You see anybody in Chicago? See anybody in Mississippi, Florida?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you just got to, you know, always stay hungry and always, you know, I would tell my kids, just don't let anybody outwork you. That's the one thing that you can control, how hard you're willing to work at something.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And I think about it too, like, everything what you did from a public school. Now the private schools and all this other stuff here, like everybody was homegrown, you know, right there.
You had to deal with what you had. And of course you always had those coaches who would recruit and get kids to come.
Right. To change your address. Right.
That. But I knew that I was being highly scrutinized, you know, from the time, you know, I stepped on the court.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, if you didn't live here, you couldn't play here, you know, and that's just the way it is. And though at one point I had so many Nigerians playing for me, they thought I was recruiting in Nigeria.
Yeah.
It was like, it was cute though. I said, no, we're not recruiting. They were here in kindergarten, first grade, you know. But, you know, I had a huge front line. It's average 6'2" for girls. That was pretty big.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And they were agile. You know, it had some great players, but yeah.
You get that call as far as, hey, Coach Wright, we want you to coach that the McDonald's game here. How was that in that experience?
That was a funny experience because I had nominated a couple of my friends.
Okay.
For that, a coach in I think it was Louisiana. Anyway, I got a call in my classroom and I thought it was my girlfriend fooling around. I was like, yeah, okay. All right, click.
Mm-hmm.
And they called back. I'm trying to teach my class. Stop calling. Yeah, click. You know, you had the phones in the classroom and they call from the office and hook you up. Mm-hmm. And then the superintendent called. The superintendent's office, and they were letting me know that I needed to take this phone call, that it was serious. So
okay,
I was completely shocked about the, I knew, you know, what was going on and stuff, but I had no idea that I was even on a list.
Yeah. And it worked out, at least traveling wise. You didn't have to go too far.
Right
yeah.
right over to the garden. But what an exciting experience! And I just saw that one of the girls that was on my team just hung up her cleats today, her sneakers. Simone Augustus. Just retired after 15 years. I said, wow, it's been a long time. She's been out of school that long, you know. But she just hung it up. And I heard it from one of the male coaches from the McDonald's team that year, TJ Whitaker, hit me up and said, hey, Simone, just, retired. So that was a wonderful experience. I mean, just being there, having some of the best players in the country. It was a wonderful experience, and it was great.
Yeah,
and to be the first, it was amazing. Mm-hmm.
Did you steal anything from there and bring it back?
No, we had a lot of little paraphernalia and stuff like that, but I did steal some things, of course.
All right, cool. Statute of limitations, we good. We're good. Those are over. Yeah, we're good.
We still a little something.
nah, that's great. That's great. And I know even for your players to see that, the ones that you actually coach at Columbia, like just for them to see that and them wanting to work extremely hard, both on and off the court for you here. So, I mean, a lot of that stuff kind of, folks are watching, and particularly your players here. So I can sure that resonated with them. Like, hey, we're on a national level in some aspect here, so we better have our butts right, not only on the court, but like I said, even off the court, to make not only themselves look good, but you and the school in itself. So, yeah.
Yeah, just representing. I mean,
totally.
But like I said, I had great kids. I mean, and parents, So I have some of my friends who used to say, in my next life, I want to coach orphans,
Really?
Yeah. I mean, seriously. And I can say that I've had the best parents, the supportive and things like that. And I know my husband would never sit with parents in a game. He would always sit someplace far off because he didn't want to hear all of the things that, people would say in the stands about what you were doing or how you were doing it. And knowing that what they knew about basketball would fit into a thimble,
Yeah.
So you better stay away.
Now you sound like me. Yeah, he sound like that's something I would just sit totally away too. Because I could totally dig that.
He had the spot. Everybody knew the spot. He'd have his one little seat and he'd be there, and that would be that. Yeah.
Now, even with the kids on the court, but even your own kids, they pretty much. I know they had a choice, but again, obviously basketball is heavily influenced between yourself and their father here. How did they they made their own paths, or was it did you sense a lot of pressure even with them? I mean, having to live up to you and your husband, or they just you guys are just mom and dad to them?
We would just listen with my daughter who played for me. It was tough because nobody had to come home with the coach except her.
Yeah.
And so we had a rule that we wouldn't talk about basketball unless she wanted to, but she would do a lot with her dad and got a big court in the backyard. And so the children weren't that interested, and they would hear their father say, see this? I got bone chips in my wrist, pain, pain over here, and so it wasn't a thing where, come on, you have to play. And with the baby, Jazz, she was with me in the gym every day.
Okay.
And so, because I didn't really trust anybody with kids. So she ended up in the gym with me after school. I pick her up and bring her back to the gym. And listen, when she was in elementary school, even in 4th and 5th grade, she was teaching my high school players moves, and things like that. She was an astute student of the game. She would even break down film for her college team, because those are the kinds of things that we did. And even with that, I had managers, my basketball managers, who got full scholarships to college. Boston College. The last player that I had that got a ride was at Rutgers for Vivian Stringer. I had two managers to manage for Vivian Stringer. And, of course, other places. So you try and prepare all of your kids that you have around you. You want them to know there is something out there for you if you're willing to, to work hard enough. Again, that's that work ethic and knowing the kinds of things, how to set up a practice,
Yes.
How to set up film, how to get the uniforms together. All of those things these young people learned, and it served them well, in college.
No, absolutely. And it's like that behind the scenes and stuff that don't get noticed, to your point here, as far as the managers, things that, the players and sometimes maybe even the coach sometimes might take for granted,
Absolutely.
as far as, definitely. And that's cool. That's good stuff as far as them even getting scholarships as well, too. And I just learned something new. I never knew they could get scholarships. Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna find a scholarship somewhere,
Yeah, you're gonna find that money. Yeah, you're gonna find that money. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask even about some of your other stuff here, even off the court here, like the refugee project. How'd you get involved with that?
Well, Lauren was my point guard in high school, and she's also one of my cheerleaders. And so when the refugee project came up, it was just a natural kind of the process. She was president of student government. We did a lot of outreach projects. I can remember her stopping on the way to school every day, picking up bagels at Sonny's Bagels to feed kids in school who probably didn't have anything to eat for breakfast, and she saw that need for those kinds of things, even at an early age. So when it came to the refugee project, I was, I guess, a natural person to ask to serve on that board, especially with the work that we've done with the Martin Luther King Club outreach overseas in Africa and Haiti. We did a lot of work in Haiti, a lot of work in South Africa and Uganda, where we built wells and bought uniforms for kids so that they could go to school. And in South Africa, kids were committing suicide at an alarming rate. This was during the AIDS epidemic. And they had nowhere to go. They had no parents. Their go-go's, which were their grandmothers, were dying because they were old. And you had children raising their own siblings and just couldn't take it. And so we had to figure out, well, what are we going to do? And one of my students had come to me, one of my former students, Kendall Whitlock, said, we got a problem in South Africa and I need your help. And so that came about. So it's always students coming back and giving back. And getting involved in that way. And so we set up an entire kind of thing to help the young people to go to school. And it taught our kids that so many things that they take for granted. I mean, kids can't get educated because they couldn't afford a $3 uniform to go to school. Yeah, come on. And then, when we had pen pals in Haiti during that big earthquake, and a lot of the kids died. And so what do you say to children who just heard from their pen pals a week before and they're no longer here?
Yes.
And so a lot of the kids came back and tried to assist and help. As a matter of fact, one of my students ended up going over to Haiti. He was in college at the time, but he was the president of my MLK club at the time. And he used to come back to get the clothing and everything together that people were donating, blankets, first aid supplies, all kinds of things, pillows that you wouldn't think that you would need. But remember, people were living out in open space. So all of those things became necessary. And he wouldn't say a thing. He would just come down from Rutgers. He was a student at Rutgers. He would come back. He would go straight over, to Claudinette Wyclif's wife. I had a store where they were piling things up, and they ended up taking him. I said, who's this kid that comes every day and he doesn't say anything? He just works. He does what he has to do, no matter what celebrities or whatever's in there. He does his work and he'd leave. And I said, oh, it's Willie Sumner. And they took him with them to Haiti to distribute all of the things that had been collected. It was just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
No, absolutely. I know when again, I know who you talk about when you say Lauren, but obviously it's Lauryn Hill you're talking about. I think about even with the refugee stuff, just even some of that stuff leads to like trafficking and, whether it's sex or labor trafficking and how just,
Absolutely.
and people don't know, like that's the second like highest crime in the country outside of like drugs and guns. And
yes,
yeah, the people don't even know that.
And even with DACA, I mean, people worry about, when they're coming in to check on children. And one of my big things is if a parent is called and they take them away, what are we going to do with these children who are left? Because 9 times out of 10, if you don't have some plan or something in place for them, they're going to end up with that life. And so it's really important that you change the rules and laws or policies, in school districts and things like that. One of the reasons that I ran for the Board of Education, I'm sitting on my 3rd term now, is to protect children. And people just don't think about it because it's just not in their space. I mean, I can't walk in your shoes for you, but I can at least try and understand. So you really have to listen so the kids will talk, and you have to talk so the kids will listen, and you'll learn a lot from them, in terms of what's going on in home and everything. And people are afraid. Fear.
Yeah. Totally. Fear plays a huge part. And you talk about all this stuff too, the undocumented, people that come over, like how huge that is. And, they're taking advantage. And you mentioned, obviously, the caregivers sometimes getting deported and sent back and you left with the kid. Like, it's a whole lot. And to your point, a lot of policies and laws got to get changed, whether you're talking about locally, even all the way up to the federal level. Obviously, the state is in between that too. But it's definitely, that's a huge issue that continues to exist. But I'm glad, like I said, there are people starting to recognize it because it was one of those hidden in the dark kind of things as well, too. But obviously, that's coming to light. And hopefully, like I said, the advocacy work on you, but tons of people are doing that stuff for this change.
Right. Even the kids, that were in South Africa who were being used for those kinds of things. I mean, kids virtually living in cardboard huts. Not even protected from the rain and the rainy season and stuff. Everything's outside. So we were able to, over there, at least build a welcoming center where kids could come in and read. They could sit down and take a deep breath, look for clothes, food insecurities. We have them here too. Everybody needs to eat. I mean, I used to serve on the bias review panel for the SATs. And I would fly into San Antonio to do that work. And I can remember just sitting there one day and I was looking at the exam and I'm going through it. And I see all of this food, right? And I'm saying, oh my God, how can a kid concentrate on an exam?
Yeah.
And they're hungry. Their stomachs are touching their backs. And here they see eggs and hamburgers and, all of this food. So we remove food from exams, and then wanting to see kids who were in wheelchairs, because you see all, what they would call normal kids, having no issues and things. But what about those kids who have handicaps? I call it being handicapable because they're capable of so many things that we don't give them credit for. And so, just having that representation and we and not to mention kids of color and things of that nature, but all kinds of children, children are fine. If you want to know the truth, you talk to them, adult, I'm absolutely. A little leery of.
Absolutely. And they have like the best BS meters in the world. Too. Yeah, so they know when you're full of it.
I like that. I'm about to steal that, the BS meeting.
There we go. You're stealing stuff still. See, even to this day. Yeah, no, absolutely. But they do. They know. And actually, I was fortunate enough to go to Djibouti, so I can relate. I was in Djibouti, Africa, probably about 2 years ago. So some of that's just seeing some of that stuff, witnessing some of that stuff here. Like, yeah, it's prevalent. And like I said, we over here, we take a lot of things for granted. So.
We absolutely do. But I tell you, it really made my kids in middle school. So I taught middle school for all of those years. That's when I left White Plains High School and came here. But the kids really looked at it and said, boy, I'm really, really blessed. And I don't have one thing to complain about when I'm seeing kids that don't know where their next meal is coming from, who've lost their parents, who don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And we have all of these blessings that we take for granted. And those things, those things are life changing. And I think from those kinds of things, we had all of these young people who are activists now, who are trying to help because of what they were exposed to at an early age. I mean, I didn't know kids were hungry when Lauren and AJ and all them was stopping to pick up bagels, to feed their classmates. And it's like, this is what they need. People, they're hungry. And we still have people hungry in this country. And it's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I totally couldn't agree more. What's your connection with John Amos?
He's my big brother.
Okay. Obviously, I know he's a Jersey guy, East Orange, I believe, right?
Yeah, he's from East Orange.
Okay.
He and my husband were very, very close. They both went to Colorado State together. Okay. And so we go way, 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 way back. And yeah. Yeah,
because I know you've done some work with him too, some philanthropy work or what have you, just as far as acting and writing. Don't tell me you was in some type of play and I didn't even know about that. Or is that true? I don't know. I'm making that up. Maybe I could be right or wrong. I didn't know you was an actress in your time. Were you?
No, I've never been an actress. Okay. I've been a singer, but I haven't been an actress. But yeah, they go, way back. And so, John spends a lot of time here. He's Jasmine's godfather. And, we just go way back. And he was doing a thing with gangs. He was working with gangs. Matter of fact, he did a thing called Gangs at Sea on his boat, where he brought the Bloods and the Crips and all these gangs together to try and work things out to stop, the violence and stuff like that. Was ages ago, and still doing the same kinds of things, in terms of trying to bring people together and teach kids about the maritime industry. I can remember we had gone down to meet with Mayor Raz Baraka to talk about, the port in Newark. Yeah. Like, where are we? How many young people know about careers that they could have in the maritime industry or sitting there on the docks and things like that to try and open things up and do things. Yeah. So expose them. Yeah,
no, totally. Right now, neck of the woods and not even realizing that,
it's big.
Totally.
It's and you don't see very few of us there. And that's a real problem.
Exposure, like just expose it. And it's what the media tries to just, put in our heads and our minds and these younger kids' mindsets. So it's people such as yourself and others exposing them to other things that's right 10 minutes from where they live, that they can do and have a hell of a life and career and everything else.
Yeah. And there's so many distractions out here for our young people. I never thought that the internet and all those things would take off the way they have. It's like everything went in nano speed. And we have kids that are totally, gifted in those kinds of areas that can do so many things. And it's just amazing. I mean, the way life has changed.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned social media and that, like, how did that start? Did that ever impact you as far as coaching? Is that the reason you retired? It just got to, I'm joking when I say that part, but as far as, did it become difficult once that stuff started emerging with your players and just things being said, just like an instance versus that news article coming out a day or two, a week later?
No, it really hadn't taken off. I don't think that much when I was coaching. Okay. It was just, it was very minute. I was having a difficult time with my bank card at the time. That was the big thing for me. Like, do I want this card, this little thing here to control the but social media with the young people there, it's really concerning to me because young people don't realize that what you put there is there forever.
Right.
And it's really important that we understand what it is that we're exposing our kids to, and parents aren't on top of things for the most part, but these kids know about these little things. Like, my grandkids come take this little thing and they just go crazy with it. And it's like it's innate. Like, how do you know I see little babies sitting down and they're but I worry about their eyes. There's so many things I worry about with this technology. And I'm a reader. I want kids to be in books and reading. There's so many things they're missing. I didn't grow up with a lot of money, so I used to travel in books.
In books, yeah.
Books for my friends. And I would travel to Italy. I'd travel to all kinds of countries by reading, and at the holiday, we would pick a country out of a hat. And we had to learn about that country, and we would have to prepare that type of food, on the side. There's nothing taking place in my greens and my mac and cheese and stuff.
That's right.
But to learn, to learn about other cultures, was really, really, important. And so that you know how to navigate in this world. But social media, it's frightening. In terms of the young people and how they use it, but it's also good for, it has a lot of good.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I would be doing. I can remember when I used to type up our programs and stuff, and my kids would say, "Why don't you use a computer? You can save it." I'm like, "How do you save something?" I have my Selectric. You couldn't tell me. I have my IBM Selectric typewriter. I was getting it. My whiteout, all that stuff.
Whiteout, man.
Yeah. So it's matter of fact, I found some whiteout the other day when I was cleaning out my basement. I said, "Look at this stuff! Oh my goodness!" I think I put something on Facebook. Look, you guys remember what this is? And it was a little piece of paper, the little white piece of paper you would stick in, and you type and take the letter off. It's a trip.
And you mentioned as you talk even with the reading, my dad always said, you want to go somewhere, you pick up a book. Yeah, that's what you should just tell me.
Yes.
And I feel good. You mentioned the hardcovers. We try to find a balance. My wife and I started late. I have a little 7-year-old, so it's just one of those things now. So she reads on electronic gadgets with a tablet, but I make sure she put a hard book in her hand as well too. So I try to find that balance where I'm not feeling as guilty with her doing something electronically. So I make sure she has an actual book in her hand as well too. So try to find that balance there. You don't want, to your point, there's a lot of pros, but you got to be mindful of the cons with all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. As far as when you're speaking about just women in general, like where you think women's sports are at right now? Like, it's still a long way to go, and that's so unfortunate. But you think there has been a turn as far as when you talk about equality or what have you? How far along are we from there?
We're nowhere. I think what's happening with women in sports is egregious. I can't even think of another word for it. They work just as hard as men, but that's the time we're living in. And until you get people in a position to make things a little more equitable, to value, the work that people put in, whether you're male or female or LGBTQ, whatever it may be, people deserve to be given a fair wage. As something that's at least comparable. And when you think about the money that women make, like our women in basketball can go overseas and make a lot more money than they do here. And I know there was a time where they'd only take maybe two Americans or whatever on a team because they were looking out for their own. It's not the case here. But I mean, insurance, injuries, you sort of look at everything. When you look at a rookie's check that's coming in, somebody who, you pick up, in the men's league, it's not good. And so if you don't get the advertisement, the sponsorships as a female athlete, it's very hard for you to make it. And that's why I think I think things are changing, but not swiftly enough.
Yeah.
And people have to come out and support, that's the bottom line. And we have to know how to manage the women's teams to make sure that they're viable. I'd like to sit on one of those committees, but at any rate, you have to find a way to get people out to the games. And so we started out badly by putting them in big arenas and you only had a few people, right? And so people said, well, I guess people aren't interested in women's basketball because it's empty. But then you have to look at the PR. And I think with the NBA coming in, getting involved, it will evolve. But until the people cry out, nothing will change.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think some of those people at the head obviously need to go, for lack of a better phrase. They need to go. Again, because I mean, I know it's still the old boys network, and all the other stuff in place too. And just to your point here, like I said, why should the women gotta go overseas to continue to earn a living when there's a professional league right here?
Right.
So. Nah,
yeah, and Kobe was doing a lot of work with that. A lot of people didn't know the kinds of things that he was involved in with women's sports, women's basketball in particular. He was changing the face of it, and unfortunately, he left. So hopefully somebody will pick up that torch and continue with it and run with it.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And I know I'm here actually in Connecticut, so I'm surrounded by UConn basketball women. So I'm, so was basketball craze as far as the Lady Huskies here. And I'm glad to be around. And again, having a daughter, my only child here, just for her to just even witness that, or just in particular. I mean, again, and I think for me to have a girl to be that, I guess, that girl dad as well too, to make sure that equality and all that stuff, at least try to do my part to the best that I can, ensure like there's a difference in things, or the playing field get equaled out somehow, somewhere, even if it is a little dent, but do something here.
Yeah, but the men can make all the difference in speaking out.
Yes.
Women have spoken out forever, but when men begin to do it, people begin to listen, sort of like E.F. Hutton, right?
Yeah.
Even with the experience that I have, nobody really wants to hear from me,
Mm-hmm.
So, hopefully things will get better.
No, definitely. Even with sports and coaching, like what is all this as far as in regards, like what has stuck with you, that you keep around as far as like a personality trait or what have you? Like what has sports done for you that sticks with you now?
Well, I'm funny. I'm a comedian.
Okay.
I'm a much better communicator. I'm an excellent listener.
Mm-hmm.
I've grown over the years from that rough coach to that coach that I think that the turning point for me was not to yell and not to scream, because, I figured out even in relationships, if you're yelling, nobody's listening. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would go and watch and scout games, and I would also become a student of the coaches. I would watch how coaches would interact with their players at crucial times in games. Like when it's tied, you have the ball, there's 20 seconds left, you got to be calm because you want your kids to be calm,
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody's getting ready to take that free throw. It's just like, look, after she makes a free throw, this is what we're going to do. So you don't make a big deal. You got to make this, and if you're fringed and on edge, that's what you see from your players, and you'll find that your players are a reflection of you.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's what I've observed with coaches over the years. And I've mentored, a few coaches out there and just watching them grow as I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still reading. I'm still questioning. I still talk to people. Like, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And so it's a whole process. If you stop growing, everything stops, and growth is important.
Yeah, no, you can't until it's really, really over. Yeah, you don't stop growing. I mean, like you said, stay sharp. Everything else is so important. It's so important. Wall.
Yeah, it is.
I wanted to put you on the spot before. Again, I know I'm mindful of your time or what have you. So would you mind me putting on the spot a little bit before we head out here?
You can do it. I don't know if I'm gonna be a spot though.
Well, let's see what happens.
Okay.
So when you're in the car, we on Parkway or the Turnpike?
I'm generally on the Parkway.
Parkway, okay. It's probably even better these days too. No tolls.
Well, I'm on the Parkways. I try not to drive too far. I'm going too far. I'm getting an Uber.
Okay. All right, get your Uber on. Okay.
I call my guy Chris, who's my Uber driver. My girls and I like to hang out.
Okay.
Yeah, we like to hang out. So we have our own big on a big old SUV kind of things. Chris has.
Yeah.
And we hit him about going to Melba's, so.
Wow, I've heard that in a while. Melba's, okay.
Generally, generally Parkway to Turnpike,
Okay.
But Parkway is local. I'm sort of a local girl.
Okay, so like to hang out here since you brought Melba's up. So I'm just thinking back when things were really going. Melba's or the Peppermint.
Peppermint.
Okay.
But the Peppermint's gone, so it's got to be Melba. So we got to travel a little bit. But there was nothing like the Peppermint Lounge. You know
that. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Food,
absolutely.
people, music, everything was at the Peppermint.
Absolutely.
I like the Cadillac and the Key too.
Cadillac. My father told me about Cadillac. He told me about the Cadillac. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Cadillac Club, the Key Club, the B&M, the Blue Note, all down on the strip in Newark.
Yeah, no, my pops told me about a lot of that stuff. He's a Newark guy. So I know you're in South Orange, so we going South Orange Ave or Valley Street?
South Orange Ave.
Okay. Speaking of South Orange Ave in that area over there, we're going to two spots. You might not even go there to eat or what have you. The View when it was there or Papillons?
Papillons. The Martini Bar.
Okay. Somebody like to have some fun here. This is good stuff. So, a state championship or coaching the McDonald's game?
State championship.
How come?
Because it's shared with more people, my girls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Remember that first one?
The accolades are good, in terms of all of those things, but none of those things would have happened without those championships, right? Mm-hmm. People wouldn't know who Johanna Wright was without those championships, and those championships came about as a result of excellent players, and it wouldn't have happened for me without them.
No, absolutely. So, remember that first one, that first state crown?
Yeah, it was that. Well, you're talking about in Jersey or in New York?
In Jersey.
Yeah, I guess it's like how people tell you, really revel in it. Take your time. Inhale. Smell the roses, kind of thing. It's hard to do when you're in the moment. And I can remember, talking to Felicia when she was coaching university and having all the success. I said, enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Enjoy this every single moment. Keep a journal. Write about how you felt. Write about your kids, so that you have, because before it becomes fleeting, and before you know it, you're trying to remember, sort of like being in high school and you remember those certain things. But when you're going through it, you just go through it and then you're preparing for the next season. I was always looking ahead rather than sitting about, and once you do it, people expect you to continually, win. And it's difficult. It's difficult.
Should that 85 home game winning streak, should it last to 100?
Well, it could have. I mean, streaks happen, and, we hadn't lost the game in 5 or 6 years at home, which was huge. You protect home at all times. You don't let somebody come in your house and steal, right?
That's right.
And that's the way I used to say, don't let anybody come here and take nothing from you. It's your house, And when we lost that streak, it happened on a 3/4 court shot that banked in.
At the buzzer. At the buzzer, yeah.
At the buzzer.
Games like that, I'd rather just get blown out than sometimes to just lose like that.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with championships. When we were trying to make runs and things, and, I always tell my girls, the bottom line is I want you to feel the loss before it happens. Feel that pain. You don't want to come home from, feel that. But then on the other token, when you lose that game, I would tell them, listen, everybody's going to lose one except the eventual champion. And so we're out now. We're going to come back. We're going to cheer people on. We're going to watch, and we're going to learn. and we're going to get to work, and couldn't wait for school to get out so we could get to work in the open gym. I used to open my gym up for all girls in Essex County. They would be in my gym in the summer from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Open gym to teach everybody. I want everybody to be good. And it worked. It worked really well. I mean, the players from Montclair, players from Shabazz University, Sky, every place, just come and have that camaraderie. And kids were playing AAU together and forming those friendships and those relationships. Right. Y'all come on over to South Orange. We got an open gym here. And you don't have to play on that concrete. I used to hate the blacktop.
The blacktop,
it's bad for your knees and everything. When you had a gym that you could play in, it was good. But, the other thing with my players, I think that set us apart, my scrimmaging team was always boys. I always brought the guys in from the high school. Some guys who would get cut from the team, but were good. Come on over. You can play every day with us. You got your physical and everything.
Yeah, right. You're good. Yeah.
And so I'll tell my girls, you may not score a basket. They might, out quick you. But the bottom line is when you play against girls, you're going to be heads and shoulders above them because of who you played with all week. And I'm going to tell you, the guys would get just as excited about our games and they would the guys' games, and we had huge crowds that would come out and see us play. The kids executed so well,
Yeah.
And we're so supportive of one another.
It sounds like it. Even with that, what's the best team you ever had?
Gosh. I guess the 98 team.
Okay.
And then we had the 02 team. We had two teams that went to the TOC. But we've had, we had teams, I always thought that, listen, honestly, for me, I always thought the county tournament was bigger than the state tournament.
You know what? I feel that way too. I feel that way too.
If you could win the counties like Essex County.
Yeah.
What? Come on. Shabazz, all those great teams that Vanessa had, Felicia University.
University, yeah.
That was where you really settled in. People would come from miles around to see Essex County. At least for the women anyway, for the girls. But our, county tournament meant a lot.
County's definitely. I always say that. Again, I understand the state and exposure, more of that, but just winning around the way and winning that county chip, I'm sure it's nothing. No, it's a hell of a feeling. I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's
great.
What's the best game you ever coached?
Gosh. I would think, I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
I really don't know. They were all tough. We had a tough, you can't do that well if you're not playing great competition every day. Right? So the competition was always, fantastic. We've had some great, games in county tournaments in the states. So I don't know. And there have probably been some games that we lost that I thought I did a pretty good job in, so it just didn't turn out that way. But I thought I coached a hell of a game. It just didn't work out. But just to be in it, is a good thing. Even to be the last two standing or the last four, or the 8 that goes into that tournament. That's special. That's really special to be, the last few standing. And it says something about your work ethic. And that's the thing I always preach, work ethic, so.
Out of that, is it one game you be like, damn, wish I could get that one back?
It's a few.
Anyone sticks out more than the other?
Yeah, but I won't say because I don't want to give anybody any play.
Okay, all right, absolutely. Okay. I hear you. So, who's one of your toughest coach to go against?
They were all tough.
Okay.
They were all tough. I'm saying the conference and the league, the county. I mean, it just didn't get any better than, especially in Essex County. And even when you go across the state, Jersey has good basketball.
Yes.
They have coaches,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nah,
But
definitely.
I always loved coaching against Shirley Lawrence. That was my girl.
That was your girl, yeah.
That was my girl. I like beating up on her, Sorry, Shirley. I like our girls would hang out together. They had a great camaraderie, and and we had an awful lot of fun. She coached for Bloomfield Tech. But I used to have a lot of fun with Shirley Lawrence. She's now retired in Ohio. She was a math teacher. Yeah.
And to your point you mentioned earlier, even with the coaching, everybody wants to win. Everybody wants, but like you said, that camaraderie was always there off the court when the lights were off and, the whistles were off the neck. Like you guys, it was a camaraderie. Everybody wanted to see each other do well, just not when y'all played each other.
Right. And I think the most important thing for me were our losses, because you learn so much from a loss. And how you would do things differently and backing up. Honestly, there was some game film I didn't want to go back and watch, because of the loss, because it cut so deeply. But you had to do it and understand it and sit down and say, here we go, girls. Let's check this out. Let's look at what we did, Yeah.
Now, what someone made it, you can think of it in any kind of way, but someone who should have made it, whether it's at the college level or to the pro level here. And I know it's kind of broad and you can use the word made it, however you want to interpret it, but somebody who should have made it.
Gosh, I can't think of anyone who didn't make it, who wanted to. So, because a lot of girls, even after college, after, being recruited and everything, and just said, I'm done. Like with my daughter, she just wanted a car.
I hear it.
If you get a scholarship, you get a car. And so she ended up signing with Syracuse. And after first year, we said, we got to see how you're going to do with your grades. So
held off on the car.
Yeah, we held off a year. We had to hold off a year. Got to make sure that car's not up there and being a distraction. So she came back and she came home and we had a Pathfinder in the driveway with a big red bow on it.
Okay.
I was extremely excited about it. So
yeah. She need that Pathfinder going up there and the winters up there. So absolutely.
Yes.
Who's best high school player you ever seen? As far as girls.
I've seen so many. Oh my God. Was it Simone Augustus that was on my McDonald's team?
Okay.
I had some great players myself. I mean, there's so many. Métis, Ajavon from Shabazz, my daughter Jasmine, Gail Wafili, Jessica Simmons. I mean, there were so many. I'm probably leaving to Stacy Town. There's so many great players around. Bianca Brown, who played. Most of these kids played in my gym. Asia. I mean, listen. We could have a list here. If we were to put the girls from Essex County together in an all-star game, Frenchie, all those kids, nobody could beat us.
Yeah. Who'll be
challenge everybody?
Who'll be your five? Who'll be a starting five?
Oh gosh, my memory isn't. Let me see. Who would be my starting five? I'm gonna get back to you on that.
You'll get back to me.
And with the starting five, we have to have the first off the bench too.
Yeah, we'll get a six. Get a six person. Absolutely.
Give me 16.
Absolutely.
On that. Oh man,
Okay.
Getting y'all excited now.
What as a coach, what are you most proud of?
What I am most proud of is what my girls are doing now. Records come and go, and it's not the most important thing in the world, but what are the kids doing now and the legacies that they've left? I think for me, that's the most important thing. And the fact that you could save your parents a lot of money.
Yeah.
and we've run the gamut. In our program, kids have gone from Stanford to junior colleges,
Mm-hmm.
Major D1 from Northwestern to,
Mm-hmm.
University of Virginia, Carolina, I mean, everywhere. So when you sit there and you look at that and you see, and I like to take a deep breath, and I have kids coming to me now, doctors who are lawyers, giving me good legal advice, taking care of me, physically. It's just unbelievable. Kids who are educating, kids who are coaching themselves, and paying it back and paying it forward. That's the thing that I'm most proud of. It's what these young ladies are doing now, and many of them are coaching. Some are coaching, on the Division I level and everything. I know my daughter coached Division I and came and took over the program here, and then moved on to Hackensack. So it's amazing. Matter of fact, the Columbia girls were undefeated this year, which is really, really wonderful. It did my heart well,
I'm sure. But I'm sure. But as a coach, you probably like, I should have been on the undefeated or 1-2 lost person there. But I sense it's still that pride that you just see them doing well too. Because you want to see them do well.
Especially with the coach. The coach is Chuckalicious, one of my former students.
Okay, good.
Coach Keegan did the thing this year, and his coaching staff was phenomenal, and in COVID time, it's just, we're lucky we had a season,
Definitely.
Yeah.
What's the best part about being Coach Wright?
Just being me.
Okay.
I'm a special kind of person. I'm funny. I love to have a good time and hang out and turn up.
Oh, you still turning up? You still turn up?
I will always turn up.
Yeah, turn up.
Girl. That's what we do.
Yeah, like these young people, they turn up, getting lit, everything. Okay,
all of that.
What would Coach Wright right now tell that 17, 18-year-old Coach Wright that's a senior in high school? What advice would you give her?
Not to play small. There's way too much hiding and options that you can take care of. So I would tell them not to play small.
Good stuff. Now, Coach Wright, I just wanted on my end, say thank you. And the reason I'm saying thank you for a whole lot of reasons, but I'll try to sum it up real in a couple of sentences or two. But just knowing about who you are and just hearing stuff about you, what have you here, like I said, one, it's an honor and joy to even be sitting here talking to you. And I think it's just one of those things, being from Jersey, obviously there's a connection there, what have you there. And I know you being officially you somehow indirectly helped me be officially me. And I think it's just one of those things here, like the student athletes, the students in general, whether they play sports or not, all the stuff that you've done in your life, whether it's on the court, obviously accolades through the roof off the court. But I'm sure that off the court stuff probably might be more to you than what's on the court. But I think you kind of alluded to, like, your girls and just people they've become, as far as in their lives here, and obviously you could just see that, as far as just sitting here talking to you and just the joy and the pride that you just have just talking about them. And it sounded like even with some of the conversation here that you wanted to even, put your whistle back on and go to a gym, but I want to just say, like, this thank you. And again, I know you come from a basketball family, may your husband rest in peace, even your daughters and your son, and I know you got grands or what have you there, and for my daughter, and this is my selfish moment, just for her to even see this or what have you, when I do share it with her here, again, I talk about, like I said, me being a dad and just her having to see the strong, Black women, like I said, just for her to just know there's a million of y'all out here, and it's like, and she could be the million and first, So like I said, yeah,
absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'll be doing a show. We're doing the first recording in June. It's going to be called Late Night with Mama Wright.
Late Night with Mama Wright. Okay. That's right.
And it's basically women my age and young, basically for the most part, a couple of me and my crew, but basically interacting with young people.
Mm-hmm.
And as we see so much on TV, everybody's got to be all nasty and gross, and it's nice for our young people to look up and see that there are women who look like them, who don't have to do all the things that they're doing in order to be relevant. And in order to move ahead and have some type of grounding and support. And so it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Sound like it's gonna be a whole lot of fun. Are you guys, is it airing somewhere, or is it something y'all recording and just putting it out?
Well, it's going to air. We're doing the taping at Petra Island in Mahopac, New York, which is a beautiful place. As a matter of fact, it's an island shaped like a heart. Because and you have to Google it and look at it. It's beautiful. As a friend Wright home on it, and it's perfect for COVID time, because it's outside, has a helicopter pad, for people to land, and so it should be a lot of fun. We'll have a lot of special guests coming in to sit down and just talk about life and what's going on today and how to try and navigate it better. Because there's so many things that are going on that people really, aren't aware of. And there's nothing like education. And most of my friends, of course, are educators. And with the young educators, our babies, our kids, there's just so many things. There's so many, like I said, there's so many options out there that seem small, that you can, be afforded the opportunity to be exposed, if you will, to a lot more things that you normally wouldn't be exposed to. So it should work pretty well. I've been asked to do this for the last 12 years, and I finally decided, okay, let's see what we can do with this.
And I'm looking forward. I'm gonna stay on the prowl for it, and I'm looking forward to when it airs and when you get it out there. You got a viewer in me, so I'm looking forward to that. Well, again, Coach, thank you. I really appreciate, like I said, your time and everything. I wish you all the health, you and your family, all the health and safety and everything, with everything going on here. So like I said, thank you so much. And like I said, hopefully this
at my age is it's everything is a blessing when people even remember who you are, so. That's really special. I really appreciate your asking me to have this interview, and it was nice chatting with you too. You're easy. Maybe you should have your own real show and get you on Aspire or something.
You never know. Like I said, just started off as far as just a little hobby, but hey, that's where a lot of things start from. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And actually, offline, I want to just run something by you as far as but we could talk about that. I can follow up with you about that as far as some other stuff that I have that might be of interest to you.
Okay, no problem.
Cool. Thank you, Coach. I really appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Thank you for thanking me, and thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
All right. Likewise. Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, just get sometimes lost in words here. Just excited, excited, humble, array of emotions. Just kind of just have an opportunity just to have these conversations, these dialogues, with everybody. Coach is a spectacular person and continues to do so and do a lot of work. That's what us Jersey people do. So on that note, I put my hand over my heart. That means I feel you. Yeah.